What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And we're going to be talking about a game called Dusk. This was originally a PC game, but this game came out last year, I believe, for console in October of 2023. And one thing in particular I would really like to discuss about this game is absolutely amazing. For one thing, I will mention here quick as well. Now, basically, what I'm trying to say is that if you had a Doom and Quake mixed in and had a baby, you would have Dusk. Yeah, you heard me correctly. And this is a very interesting game. And it brought me back to much of the older school titles when it came to first person shooters. You have Quake, you have Unreal, and you have Doom. I mean, you have all these unique first person old school genre of first person shooters, but Dusk is no exception. This game is by far one of the most intriguing, and it's very well intricate level design to detail. And that is one thing I would greatly appreciate when it comes to this game, though, too, is because this game actually brings me back to a game called known as Thief the Dark Project, or even that original series, because that series was very well rounded and loved by a lot of fans, much like myself. But this game really has some very intricacy of level of detail. And, with its structure of its environments and going through different types of environments that have basically, like catacombs or like churches or cornfields, that sort of thing. And this game really blends into a lot of Quake. It does have some of that Doom feel to it as well, because Doom is known for its fast and visceral combat. This game really utilizes that from Quake and from Doom. And so basically that's what I'm saying. Dusk really does something I wasn't really quite expecting at first, because I never played this game before. I actually recently just got this one as of yesterday, and I played it for more than 3 or 4 hours. And I guess my impressions are, like I said, it's awesome, it's amazing, it's visceral to its own uniqueness way, and that's where I think this game really falls under line. And it's very well streamlined as well in terms of, mechanical wise when it comes to combat scenarios. I mean, you have your assault rifles, you have your shotguns, you have your pistols, you have these scythes, right? For melee combat, if you want to go into melee, if you want to, you have all these weapons at your disposal to where you can utilize them to a certain type of degree, very in a very fluent way, because that's what I love about games like this, much like Dusk or like Unreal or Quake or Doom, because you can utilize certain types of ways how to bring it down to the chassis when it comes to first person shooters. And that's where I feel like that this game really does an excellent job in that. And it's why I'm so fascinated about this game, because I mean, coming from other old school games, like the games I previously mentioned, and when it comes to the games that we have now today, when it comes to the first person shooter genre, we don't see games like this anymore. And what I'm saying is that Dusk creates so much of very interesting lighting to detail and atmospheric tone. And it's the tonality of the atmosphere of each level that you are so well inclined to visit, obviously, because that's the progression level. This game has a progression level to what Doom did, or what Quake did, or what Unreal did. Now, Unreal was more streamlined because each loading screen, it was very quick, especially on PC. And it's not so quick on the PlayStation 4 if you're playing it through the backwards compatibility on PS5. But however, this game really does, it plays magnificently. I never played a game that is very well streamlined pretty well. It's very fluent. It's so adaptive. And what I mean by adaptive, it adapts to how you go from each level to level and how its progression, and with that progression involved, the loading screens, like I was saying, the loading screens it's a little slow, but it's a little quicker if you're playing on PS5, but it is an older game. But, as I previously mentioned before, when I never played this game on PC, I know it was highly popular. I think there was like a beta for this game before the game actually initially came out. I could be wrong about that. But either or, this game is absolutely amazing and it's an utter blast. I have never played a game that plays so familiar to that of the old school shooter genre, you know? And that's where I grew up on when it came to the old school games, because this is where Dusk really takes a back when it comes to that old school formula, because not because of its first person shooter esque quality of this game as it is, but it's the fact that like I said, it plays like a Quake, it plays like a Doom. It kind of plays a little bit like Unreal a little bit, but Unreal was more of a powerhouse on the technology side when it comes to PC gaming in history. But I got a little bit of Unreal vibes in this game though too, because of the fact of how the environments are so different rather than from like Quake or Doom or Unreal, and from other games like Duke Nukem Forever, not Forever, excuse me, Duke Nukem 3D. I mean, you have all these unique first person shooters, and this game really brought back some of that old school shooter mechanics. And it's, like I said, it's streamlined a lot better in a game like this. I mean, I'm sure that when it came to the Duke Nukem games or the Doom games or the Quakes or the Unreals, those games were excellently streamlined in terms of like if it's loading quality, it's with its frames per second. And that's one thing I greatly noticed when it comes to this game on PS4 via the backwards compatibility on PS5, excuse me. And it's astonishing, because usually I've always had trouble when it comes to any kind of new games or old games like Dusk that have a frames per second problem. I never had any loading problems with this game on PlayStation 5. I never had any glitches or bugs or anything, and which is saying something, because usually with a game like this that's old, but bringing it to consoles, that's a step forward. And usually when it comes to 90'S Studios, which is a really renowned company that is able to bring back some older titles, like we've had a Quake remastered a couple of years ago, we've had a Quake 2 remaster, we've had a Doom 64 remastered, we had a couple of Turroks remastered as well for modern day consoles as well. And I'm telling you, this game did something that I never really I was thinking of. I never thought possible, because it's like, like I said, I've always wanted to play this game on PC. I mean, I do have a gaming PC. It's a laptop, obviously, but point being, this game is so good. The shooting mechanics, it's one of the best I've seen when it comes to an old school shooter. I mean, much like, when it came to Quake or Doom or Unreal, those games were really well played when it came to a perspective of not just the first person shooter aspect or concept of it. It was the fact that how it's utilized and how it's just going to make this game much more interesting. And I think that's where Dusk really falls under. This game really does an awesome job of its combat mechanics, and that's one thing I really love about first person shooters in general though too, not just from Dusk, is that usually games like this of this genre, when it comes to old school formula like Doom, like Quake and Unreal, I know I'm going back to this, but this is the point of this video, right? I analyze things when it comes to game mechanics and some of their positives and flaws, and what makes these games really tick. And I think that's where Dusk really falls underline. It does a really good job in so many areas, and it's awesome. And I can't wait to dive more deep in this game, because as I previously mentioned, I played this game for more than 3 hours yesterday. And what I will say is I'm impressed, guys. I am thoroughly impressed of what this company, I forget what the company that made this game, but they did so good. Oh my God. I was ecstatic when I saw this on console, because I'm like, what? Because like I said, this was normally a PC game only. And I never really thought that some PC games would actually end up coming to console. But as far as Dusk is concerned, I never thought it would come to console. And once I started playing it for more than 3 hours, as I previously mentioned, I'm like, dude, why did I not get this before? I mean, this game is $20 on the PlayStation Store if you are on PlayStation. It's going to be the same price on Xbox if you get it on Xbox as well. But what I'm trying to get to, I actually do highly recommend playing this game for newcomers or even old school fans of the first-person shooter genre, because this game, it's awesome. And that's what I was saying with the... Now, I want to get into a little bit of the tonality of this game, because this is where DUSK really does an awesome, even more awesome job with this game, because each level that you go through, there's a different tonality. And what I mean by that, each level, not just because of its progression system of each level to level, right? But the tonality, some levels are going to be dark and foreboding and brooding. Some areas are going to be, like not like sparkling, but there will be some levels that look really cool and unique and pretty in a sort of unique way. And there are some levels that are like that, and it's amazing how this game really utilizes its lighting and shadow effects. I'm actually quite impressed, because usually I don't always like games that don't utilize the lighting and shadow effects very well. And I really can't name offhand what games I've played that had that type of lack thereof. But I think DUSK does a really good job with that, in my personal opinion. But it's magnificent as to how a game like this really just streamlines itself and make it very user-friendly to a lot of FPS original fans out there like myself. And that's where I was going with that. So, now, another thing I would really like to mention is the level design. I think I only delved a little bit on this. The level design is one of the best I have ever seen, opposite that of, Thief the Dark Project, comparing it to that. And there is a little bit of a Thief the Dark Project element in this game, other than it just being an immense first-person shooter like Doom and Quake and all that kind of stuff, right? But that's where this game really brings back, or harkens back a little bit, to where how Thief the Dark Project was able to utilize itself and showing out the level infrastructure of each level, and how well it was streamlined because of how well it was played, of how well it was showing off where you needed to go. I mean, you were able to go anywhere you want. This is what DUSK does a little bit, I've noticed. And that's another thing it's another thing and reason why I think DUSK is it's a unique first-person shooter that gives you a little bit of opportunity to, I wouldn't say venture off much like Thief the Dark Project, but it kind of feels like that because of its infrastructure level design. That's one thing that this game does amazingly well. I don't think I really recall any other old school games that does a really good job of showing some really good level design and fidelity of it. It's cool. And I think there is another game actually that kind of really does it amazingly well, which is Unreal. Unreal is a much older game as well, like in 1998. But that game really utilized the streamlining of level design and quality, because every time when you load it in, the level is always going to be different. It's not always going to be the same. That's what DUSK does. DUSK has that level progression system, much like I previously mentioned, and what Unreal does and what Quake does and what Doom does, because each of these games are also going to have their own unique type of tonality and the structure of each level, and how it really makes things different, and how it really makes the game flow. And I think that's where DUSK really does excel exceedingly well. And I'm thoroughly impressed of the people or the developers that made this game. Now, in conclusion here, I would say DUSK it's a magnificent game. Like I said, it's a first-person shooter I haven't seen like no other, opposite that, it does play like some old school titles, but that's where the meat and bones of this game is. What I would say that this game has higher replayability, Yeah, I think this game definitely has a lot of high replayability, and it's magnificent. And like I said, of all the things I mentioned about this game, do I recommend it? Yes, 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 yes. And so, in closing here, I would say when it comes to the combat, when it comes to its tonality, when it comes to its gameplay mechanics and how it all works and utilizes itself all into one structure of a game like Dusk does it perfectly. And I think that's where I will probably be playing this game more often than not than other original FPSs out there, much like Quake or Doom or Unreal. But point being, it's just a lot of fun. But anyways, too much further ado, thank you for tuning in. Greatly appreciated. Any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. And you guys have a good rest of your weekend, and I'm hoping to make more future content here on my channel at Citizen JV. See you guys later.